Gemini by Amy Kaufman and Jay Kristoff. I was gonna say Megan Spooner. Hello there, it's Samantha. So today I'm coming to you with part 2 in my end of the year series of videos. So today I'm going to be talking about all of my favorite books from the year. Last week I talked about my least favorite books, so yes, this is the more positive aspect of the year. These are going to be all of my favorite books that I read in the year of 2018. They didn't necessarily have to come out during this year. I have 10 books here to talk about, plus one honorable mention. In the year I read 46 books, which I feel like is quite a good-ish number. So there is an order to this, but mostly like the ones which are like in the like bottom 5, they don't necessarily have an order, but I just put them in unorder. So like the top 5 are definitely the top 5. But anyway, without further ado, I'll start off with my honorable mention, which is Fangirl by Rainbow Rowell. This is an honorable mention because this was a reread for me. I first read this book 4 years ago when I very first started my channel. I read it during my first ever booktube-a-thon that I took part in, and I read it in a day, so I don't feel like I took in everything as much as you can with Fangirl. I love this book so much. I loved it back then when I first read it, and I loved it even more the second time around. When I first read it, I was 15. I couldn't really understand Kath because I was not in my first year of university like she was. Meanwhile, when I read it this year, I read it right after I finished my first year. I could relate so much more, and I just loved it so much. I felt that the anxiety rep was perfection, and it was fantastic. And now I really need to reread Carry On because it's been many years since I read that one. But if for some reason you don't know what Fangirl is all about, where have you been? Fangirl follows our main character Kath, and it follows her as she goes to university for the first time, and she meets new friends, she meets a new boy, and she also is a very popular fanfiction writer for this series called the Simon Snow series, which is basically that world's version of Harry Potter. It's fantastic. It's a really cute, sweet time. The anxiety rep is great, and yeah, and then there's a spin-off book called Carry On, which is Carry On Simon, which is the fanfiction that she wrote for Simon Snow. Number 10 on my list is Three Dark Crowns by Kendara Blake. If you don't know what Three Dark Crowns is about, it follows 3 sisters who are triplets, and they're all like deemed queens, but there can only be one queen, so they have to fight to the death to become the queen in this land. And they're all supposed to have these magical powers which helps them during this battle that they have when they're 16. However, 2 of them seemingly don't have any powers at all, so it's quite clear that this one queen is definitely going to win. However, not everything goes that way. I really enjoyed this book. However, I did find that the first bit was kind of slow. That's why it's so far down on my list. But I did really enjoy it, and I think it was a really good introduction to this new fantasy world. And now I just need to continue on with the series because this is not good. I own the second book, and the third book recently came out, and I have not got on it yet. So that is one that I definitely need to get on in 2019.
Hello, this lighting is terrible. I'm sorry, the quality is terrible as well. I'm not going to refilm this whole video, but I was just rewatching this and I realized that this should not have been number 3 on my list. I rated this book 4 stars. I do not understand why this is so high. So I would probably say that this is actually number 9 on my list, and everything else is like bumped up 1. So yeah, sorry for the confusion, but I'm not going to re-edit the whole thing, so yeah. Just consider this number 9, but I'm saying it as number 3, but it's not. Okay, alright, bye.
Coming in at number 3 on my list is A Torch Against the Night by Sabaa Tahir. This is the sequel to An Ember in the Ashes, and I absolutely loved this book. I first read An Ember in the Ashes back in 2016, I think. It took me quite a while to actually get to this book, but when I read it, I was so glad I did because it was so good. I read it during the biannual bibliothon, and I read it in like maybe 2 nights, I think. Like, I just sat down and powered through it, and I loved every single, like literally every single page. It was so action-packed and fun, and I really loved seeing all of our characters again. But I still haven't continued on with the 3rd book yet, which is a mistake on my part, but I need to get to that soon. I'm not going to go into what it's about because 1, it was a sequel, and 2, I'm terrible at summarizing the book. So I will just I will leave links to all of the Goodreads pages for all of the books that I've mentioned down below, because as you can tell, I read a lot of them earlier on in the year as well, so my memory is like not great. Coming in at number 9 on my list is Save the Date by Morgan Matson. This book was so much fun, and I read it at the perfect time. If for some reason you don't know what this book is about, because it literally has been everywhere on BookTube. This book follows our main character, Charlie, I think, who is like 17, and her older sister is getting married. So all of her siblings are coming back to the house because that's where her sister's getting married, and they're also selling the house. So this is the last time that everyone's going to be together before her sister gets married and before she goes off to college and all of that. It's the last time in the big house before all of these changes start happening. But then everything with the wedding starts to go wrong. So Charlie's trying to put out fires everywhere, and it's so funny and enjoyable, and I loved the like disastrous element of it, how everything keeps going wrong. But also this book was like really great for me to read this summer because my sister ended up getting married in September. Sometimes I read a book and it's just like the perfect time in my life, and reading Save the Date in July or June or whenever I read it was like the perfect time because right after it was like, oh, my sister's getting married now. So it just really reminded me of that. Also, I come from a big family, and I really loved seeing a big family dynamic because I have 3 siblings, so I'm the youngest of 4. So I love seeing like siblings interact, and you have those siblings that are really close, and you have that sibling which you're maybe not as close with. But actually, nowadays, I'm close with all of my siblings. But I found it really fun and kind of relatable at the same time, so it was great. Coming in at number 8 on my list is Children of Blood and Bone by Tomi Adeyemi. This book is a little bit lower on my list just because I did read a lot of good books this year. But don't get me wrong, I still really loved this book. It's just, I read this book during a reading slump, so it took me like a month to read, so like it was quite slow, or maybe it was just 2 weeks, but it took me like a longish time to read this book. So I didn't love it as much as I could have, but that's on me. I'm sure that you all know what Children of Blood and Bone is about, so I'm not going to go into details, but I really loved this book. I thought it was such an interesting new fantasy world. There were things about it that irritated me, like one of the characters, the male love interest, should have just been cancelled entirely because he was the worst. Also, I would have loved to see a female-female romance between 2 of the characters because they like literally, that would have been such a good couple. But it's fine. Tomi's not going in that direction. Whatever. I'm still sad about it, but it's fine. I really loved this book, regardless of how low it is on my list. I still loved it. Coming in at number 7 on my list is Moxie by Jennifer Mathieu, or Mathieu. I still don't know how you say it. This book is fantastic. This book is about this girl whose name I've forgotten because I read this book couple months ago, but she is fed up with the sexism that's going on in her school, so she decides to start a feminist zine inspired by her mother's Riot Girl days back in the 90s. So she starts this feminist zine and distributes it anonymously in her school, and things start to change. The sexism in the school starts to get questioned and challenged, whereas before they just let it happen. And it's a really, really great book about female empowerment. It's fantastic. It's a really fun book considering the fact that it's talking about sexism. It's still a fun time, and it's really great to see all these female friendships. Coming in at number 6 on my list is Alex Approximately by Jen Bennett. I adored this book so much. It was one of my favorite contemporary books I've ever read. It is so adorable. It's basically a You've Got Mail retelling. If you've seen You've Got Mail, that movie with Meg Ryan and Tom Hanks, it's fantastic. Where basically it follows our main character Bailey, and she is talking to a guy online on this movie forum, and he goes by the name of Alex, even though that's not actually his name, that's just his screen name. And so she decides to move to California to live with her dad because she's had some problems with her mom. And Alex also lives in the same place in California. So she's like, it's fine, I'll move there to live with my dad, but I'll also run into Alex sometime, and that will be cool. But then she starts working at this job, and she meets this guy called Porter, and something starts to happen between them, and there's just like lots of confusion. There's lots of confusion, and it's lots of fun, and it's just like, it was a really fun time, but it did have some darker themes to it. It literally made me feel so warm and fuzzy inside, and I like squealed out of happiness whilst reading it. So. Coming in at number 5 on my list is a poetry collection. What? I know, I branched out. I read some poetry this year. But I read a fantastic little book published by one of BookTube's very own, and that was The Sweetest Kind of Poison by Katie Weismer. I feel like I haven't talked about this book enough yet because I read it in September. No, I read it in August, but then I haven't really been posting that much, so I feel like I haven't voiced how much I love this book yet. But, you know, if you didn't know, Katie from Kate's Book Date on BookTube, she self-published a poetry collection in August. I read it, and I loved it so much. I really want to reread it and just, like, devour it again because it was so fantastic. It deals with an abusive relationship, but it also deals with, like, healing from that and just, like, oh, it's just so good. I can't even put it into words. Like, I feel like it's really hard to describe poetry collections, but it's beautifully written. The book itself is beautiful as well, and it's just fantastic. I feel like when a booktuber writes a book, we all should support it because a lot of us want to write books as well, and I know that people would support me as well, so I want to support other people. And it's just a fantastic book, and I can't put it into words, okay? I just can't. I just loved it so much. Coming in at number 4 on my list is Turtles All the Way Down by John Green. I read this book back in January and I loved it. This book follows our main character, whose name I've forgotten. I feel like this is a common theme. And she has OCD, and there's basically a subplot where this millionaire has gone missing, and there's a reward if you find him or if you know information about him, something like that. So originally our main character, whatever her name is trying to like solve the mystery a bit, but then the millionaire's son is someone that she used to know, and so maybe like a little bit of a relationship forms between them as well, but it's mainly focusing on her OCD, and I thought it was fantastic. I myself do not suffer from OCD, so I cannot speak to the rep, but I know that the book is own voices representation, so hopefully I would assume it's good. But there were some passages which were just like so fantastic, and I really enjoyed it. Like, it was just a really good mental health book, I think. And also I enjoyed the contemporary story as well. I did think that it could have been further developed, like the whole mystery sort of plotline could have been developed a bit more, but I still really loved the book. Coming in at number 2 on my list is Gemini by Amy Kaufman and Jay Kristoff. This is the second book in the Illuminae trilogy. I've read all 3 books, and Gemini is by far my favorite. I adored Illuminae. It was fantastic. It was such a great introduction to this fantastic, fun, gritty sci-fi series, which is just like one of my favorite things. Also, the books, the way that they're told is amazing. I know that everyone has like shown you what a book, what one of the books looks like, but I don't have anything with me. But like, things are blacked out. They're told through transcripts and drawings and maps and everything. It's just the most interesting reading experience ever, and the story is phenomenal. Also, you have these like 3 different groups of people, and they all intersect in different ways, and it's just like amazing. Anyway, but the second book was literally mind-blowing. It was mind-blowing. I remember closing that book and being like, what the fuck just happened? Like, I'm blown away. So yes, the second book was phenomenal. The third book was a slight letdown to me in comparison to the second book. I still loved all of them, but by far Gemini is my absolute favorite. If you have not read the Illuminae trilogy, you are missing out in a big way, because these books are just so fun, but also like dark and gritty, but like amazing. You have to read these books. Finally, onto my top book of the year. I'm sure that you might have some ideas, because I haven't shut up about this book all year since I read it back in March. But I'm gonna give you a second to guess. If you want to guess what my favorite book of the year is, like, feel free to put it in the comments, and I'll let you know if you're right in a second when I say what it is. My favorite book of the year has been Scythe by Neal Shusterman. Oh my god, that book is amazing. It's like one of the best books I've read in a really long time. Like, I just love the series so much. It is like just the most fun, weird, interesting thing I've ever read, and I am obsessed. If for some strange reason you don't know what Scythe is about, but I'm sure you do, because literally every single person ever has read this book now, I swear. Scythe is set in the future. It's a future where you can no longer die. Like, accidents don't happen, all diseases have been cured. Like, it's a utopian society. It's supposed to be. But in order to control population, they have people called Scythes who have the authority to kill people. They should only do it to control the population. And it follows 2 characters who are both teenagers called Citra and Rowan. They're chosen to be a Scythe's apprentices, and so they learn what it's like to be a Scythe. They learn about the Scythedom, and yes, everything should be perfect, but there is corruption. Only the first 2 books are out at the moment. I think the third one comes out next year. It better, but they're both so fantastic and crazy and wild and such a fun time, and I ate it up. It was one of those books where I closed the book and I wanted to just start it over all over again, because it was so phenomenal. Anyway, so those were all of my favorite books of the year. Please let me know what some of your favorite books were down below. I would love to know, and I'm always needing more recommendations, even though I still have so many unread books on my shelf. But anyway, it's fine. But anyway, that is going to be all for today's video, so I hope you liked it. If you did, please hit a thumbs up. If you're new here, feel free to subscribe down below, and I will have a video up again soon, hopefully. I'm not really sure when I'm uploading at the moment, so I'm not going to say a day, but it will be up at some point. So yeah. Anyway, I will see you very soon with another video. Bye!